Welcome to a special episode of the Glitch History. Today, we journey back 4.5 millennia to the sun-baked plains of South Asia, where a civilization flourished that rivaled ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. This was the Indus Valley Civilization, an urban marvel of sophisticated planning, standardized weights, and a mysterious, undeciphered script. Spanning an area larger than Western Europe, their world included over 1,000 settlements, with grand metropolises like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. Their cities were built with unparalleled precision, grid layouts, uniform brick sizes, and public baths that suggest advanced civic organization and a surprisingly equal society. For almost 1,000 years, this great civilization thrived, seemingly without monumental palaces, visible rulers, or evidence of major warfare. It was a civilization defined by order, commerce, and peace, and then it vanished. Sometime between 1900 and 1300 BCE, the highly structured society that built perfect city grids began to crumble. Its vast cities were abandoned, its trade networks dissolved. Its advanced cultural traits, the seals, the unique script, the precise weights, were lost. This wasn't a military conquest leaving battle scars, it was a slow, puzzling decay. How did an entire civilization experience a glitch of total systemic failure? Today, we dive into the archaeological, geological, and climatological records to uncover the multiple causes of the Harappan collapse. We explore how a subtle shift in the Earth's climate and a crucial geological error created a domino effect that brought a peaceful giant to its knees. The Harappan peak, from about 2600 to 1900 BCE, presents an anomaly in the ancient world. Unlike their contemporaries, who built massive temples and royal tombs, the Harappans prioritized civic utility. One of their most fascinating aspects was incredible standardization. Bricks used in Mohenjo-Daro, 600 kilometers away from Harappa, were nearly identical. Weights and measures used in distant trading posts were precisely uniform. This suggests a highly centralized, yet invisible, authority, or perhaps a powerful merchant guild enforcing commercial order. The absence of kingly statues or grand military structures leads scholars to speculate that this was a state driven by commerce and consensus, not conquest. The very existence of this civilization was tied to the massive river systems of the Indus and the now dry Ghaggar-Hakra, possibly the ancient Saraswati River. The rivers were their lifelines, providing fertile floodplains for agriculture and crucial routes for trade. Their careful planning of city drains and wells further highlights their reliance on water management. However, this delicate balance with their water supply was about to be catastrophically disrupted by forces far beyond their control. The true glitch in the Harappan system came not from invaders, but from the heavens. For the Harappan civilization, this was magnified by their reliance on the Indian summer monsoon. This seasonal rainfall is the engine of life in South Asia. Sediment analysis shows that starting around 2000 BCE, the monsoon rains became dramatically weaker and more unpredictable. This was a slow-motion catastrophe. Rivers, especially the Ghaggar-Hakra system, which supported a vast concentration of settlements, began to dry up or became intermittent. The fertile floodplains that had reliably replenished the soil for centuries turned into dry, unreliable dust bowls. The archaeological evidence of this drought stress is stark. Large urban centers like Mohenjo-Daro began to see a sudden, non-violent drop in population. People didn't just die, they migrated eastward towards areas where the monsoon was slightly more reliable. This movement is known as the Late Harappan phase. The famed city planning standards began to erode. New constructions were shoddy, drainage systems were neglected, and trash accumulated in the streets, a telling sign of crumbling civic authority. Analysis of human and animal remains shows a move away from water-intensive crops like wheat and barley toward drought-resistant millets and rice. The stable ecological balance that sustained the civilization was broken. Their greatest challenge was the failure of the very climate system that allowed them to thrive. While the monsoon failed, the geological forces operating underneath the Indus plains added a final, fatal blow. This is the tectonic glitch, a river changing its course due to slow, deep-seated geological movement. The Ghaggar-Hakra River, which supported thousands of settlements, was once a massive, perennial river, possibly fed by Himalayan glaciers like the Sutlej and Yamuna. However, plate tectonics in the unstable Himalayan region caused a subtle, upward folding of the land. This slight geological tilt had a monumental effect. Geological studies show that the Sutlej River was tectonically captured, diverting its water flow away from the Gagarhakra and into the Indus River. Similarly, the headwaters of the Yamuna River migrated eastward, eventually feeding the Ganges. The result was the catastrophic drying of the Gagarhakra. The river, already stressed by the global drought, lost its primary sources of water and became a seasonal stream. The collapse was therefore a one-two punch. First, the climate failure, with the weakening of the monsoon. Second, the tectonic failure, with the loss of their main river supply. The centers of power in the Gagarhakra region were starved of water, forcing a mass exodus. The population retreated to the remaining flow of the Indus proper and the coastal areas of Gujarat. This massive, uncoordinated migration overloaded the remaining settlements, leading to overcrowding, breakdown of civic order, and social fragmentation. The abandonment of the great cities did not happen overnight, but the effects of these dual catastrophes were irreversible. In the late Harappan phase, the sophisticated urbanism collapsed into regional, less complex, and largely rural cultures. The hallmark of the civilization, the precise bricks, weights, and measures vanished. Regional variations emerged rapidly, suggesting the powerful centralized authority that maintained uniformity had failed. The famous Indus seals, bearing the mysterious script, stopped being produced. The script itself, which likely supported complex trade and administration, became extinct. This is the clearest evidence of the collapse of the administrative and commercial elite. Sites like Mohenjo-daro were not destroyed by fire or invasion. They were simply abandoned as the environment became hostile. For many years, the collapse was attributed to a hypothetical Aryan invasion. This theory was based on a few scattered, poorly contextualized skeletons in Mohenjo-daro. However, modern archaeology and genetics have definitively debunked this simple military explanation. There is no evidence of widespread warfare, mass graves, or sieges in the major cities. The so-called massacre skeletons were likely victims of localized skirmishes or disease, not an organized conquest. Furthermore, modern genetic studies of South Asian populations show strong genetic continuity with the Harappan people, meaning the civilization was not wiped out or replaced. Instead, the people survived. It was the system that failed. The collapse was an internal, systemic failure driven by environmental stress. The peaceful society, designed for stability, lacked the resilience needed to adapt to extreme climate and geological disruption. The story of the Indus Valley Civilization's collapse serves as a powerful cautionary tale about the delicate relationship between human civilization and the natural world. It wasn't brought down by a single event, but by a fatal confluence of forces, a global climate shift weakening the monsoon, compounded by a tectonic shift that stole the river's lifeblood. The rigid structure that allowed them to build perfect cities also made them fragile and unable to adapt when their environmental foundation crumbled. The people survived and decentralized, giving rise to the many regional cultures of India and Pakistan. But the great, unified Harappan experiment, the world's first great civilization built on civic order, rather than military power, was lost forever. It stands as perhaps the greatest example of a peaceful, advanced society succumbing to the one force it could not control, the deep, slow, and irreversible glitch of geological and climate change. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the past fascinating, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries.